Good morning and welcome to the Ask Weldon Show, episode 225. We are at a quarter of 100 into 300. And today we're going to talk about three really fun questions. As I was listening to them and prepping them, I was already thinking of the answers and things that I was going to say, so I'm super excited to dive into them today. And somebody questioned whether or not my hair is black or brown, and so I had to let loose the ponytail and show them that it is actually brown, especially in the summer time, when the sun is beating down, and when it's a little bit shorter too. That kind of helps. But anyway, today we have, as I mentioned, another episode of the Ask Weldon Show. I am Weldon, and this is my show. You can call in and ask me questions, and I will answer them with my background in sport psychology training and my expertise with a Master's of Sport Science degree in Sport and Exercise Psychology, as well as my background in esport coaching at the elite level, coaching a number of professional teams and winning a lot of championships. And you can call in questions for the show, anchor.fm/Weldon Green, anchor.fm/Weldon Green, which is my name. And you use the Anchor app. And as you can hear in today's questions, it makes your voice sound really cool. They tool the audio, and despite the fact that you're just using your phone, I say call in, but it's just an audio message. It's just an app that uses your phone. You're not actually calling in, dialing. But anyway, despite the fact that it uses your phone's microphone, you will hear that they sound pretty cool. It gives you this radio-esque quality to your voice. And so even if you don't exactly like your voice and you don't want it to appear on air, consider using Anchor, seeing what your voice is going to sound like in the first place, and you might be happy with it. And also, you can check out the show live, twitch.tv/MyGamesWeldon. That is where I just had a great conversation about exercise. We were talking about fitness and losing fat versus working out at the gym, how that goes, using the MAC program for clinical situations. All sorts of different topics come up every single day, and they're very interesting. So check it out. You can just lurk and listen, or you can type in the chat and engage in the conversation and the dialogue, and it's a lot of fun. All right, let's jump into the show. First question for today from Kevin.
Hi, Weldon. My name is Kevin, and I'm a huge fan of your sports psychology talks and how you apply it to not just video games but life. I'm a former Division I pole vaulter who has been coaching pole vault at a local high school for the past 3 years, and I've decided that after seeing some moderate success, I really want to do this for the rest of my life. I want to know what the journey steps are along the way and what my goals should be, such as what class should I take, or what degree should I get, or should I become a teacher to support myself while I'm trying to achieve this goal of becoming a Division I multi-jumps coach as a full-time career, which would be the end goal. If you have any advice for me, I would greatly appreciate it. I really respect your input. Thanks for everything, Weldon.
All right. It sounded like I heard a pole vault pole ricocheting in the background there at the end of the question. That was cool. But okay, so coach career trajectory typically goes like this: athlete, amateurs coach, assistant coach on a higher level team, professional or head coach position, and then typically director position, and then assistant director position, and then director position. Okay, so in your 60s, you expect to step up into athletic director or something like that, or to maintain at the head coach level, whatever. So that's the typical career trajectory. We're talking pre-internet world. Of course, that's just the average. There's a ton of different varieties of that. But I want to answer your question with a bunch of different scenarios, and you pick the one that feels the most suitable. So there's the traditional route, which is that you were an athlete and now you're a coach, and what you should do is you should build up your repertoire of training. So you should train as many people as you can. You should take on individual students, and you should coach, and you should start studying coaching science. What that means is self-study of the physicality of movement, and maybe in the best case scenario, a biomechanics or a kinesiology degree for example, University of Indiana Bloomington, the kinesiology program. where you study, the body essentially, and you can also study. There's a master's degree, master's of sports science, the biology of physical activity, biology of movement at my university. So those are the kind of programs you can look for to like accelerate your career into both in the knowledge realm and also into like the networking connection, like going to conferences, whatever. Then the second thing you do is you start professionalizing yourself in terms of the conferences you attend. So there are a number of different coaching conferences. You should find out the track and field area has conferences, has professional like organizations that you can belong to, become a card-carrying member of, and go to the events of, and you can start consuming their literature and their learning and ascend the ranks of their kind of like established criteria of coaching, and then networking yourself into an assistant coach position for track and field, specifically for jumps at a university somewhere. So you're working on that. It helps if you've gone to the university. So try to pick a university that, I mean, I don't know what your background is. I didn't get enough information, unfortunately, but so I don't know if you're a high school graduate, a college graduate, or what. Okay, so that's like the traditional path. There's a lot of different details to finagle there, and a lot of different ways that you could go about it. So make sure to redo your question again if you have now a new question based on that, or stop by the live stream. And then there's a newer kind of second way to tackle this, and that is to pursue your own expertise as a jumps coach while building a brand around it. So instead of what you used to do, which is to build an online resume and a network of connections, what you can do nowadays is you can build a living resume of an audience that is based on your brand as a jumps coach. So you could create content teaching high jump or long jump or whatever to a wider audience of, like a blind wider audience of people that you don't necessarily know very well, that they're your fans, right? And they just watch your content. You can create entertainment content based around the field of, track and field and high jumping and long jumping. You can create, there's different ways of tackling your brand, whether it's an educational brand or a voyeuristic brand, like a live long vlog brand, or whether it's an entertainment brand based on, funny, or like entertaining or informational content, whatever it is. And regardless of kind of the path you choose to take with your branding, essentially what you're doing is you're supplanting a lot of the networking and the self-marketing that you would do to push your career the normal way, and you're turning it into like a blind mass market marketing. So instead of specifically targeting, okay, I want this job at this program, who do I talk to get that? How do I build a resume? You kind of build your resume online in a live way by training people and making it public and making what you do and how you train and sharing that information with the world as a journey, documenting yourself, kind of like going along. And then you try to put that content in front of the people who matter. So you try to, put these videos on LinkedIn in front of, and you follow a bunch of people from the college, or you ask people to share it with, the jumps coach at their school, so that you can try to contact them, and you let the content and the fans that you have do your marketing, and then you wait for the offers to roll in. And obviously you have to do a ton of work to do that, and you have to continue to get better, but it's kind of like a different path, right? And I personally think you should do both, but I like the addition of the second path, because if your career doesn't work out, if you're not making it, if you're not achieving your dream of getting to the D1 school and getting into that position, the brand offers another way to do what you love with your life while still making a living at it. You can simply turn to your fans to support you instead of your job, and they can support you up to the level of which your field is capable of being supported. And there's my mic there. And you can still do educational, informational coaching of high jump, pole vault, long jump, whatever, and make a living at it, regardless of whether or not you succeed in traditional career steps. So that is my opinion on how to become a professional coach nowadays. Take the standard tactic, track, and add into it a layer of wisdom around how it is that you handle the social marketing of what you do to be content marketing, essentially. And that gives you an option in your career if you fail to ascend to the levels that you wish, you can still make a living doing your passion. And I say that like not specifically to your case, because I don't know how good or bad you are at this, but to the general cases, people out there who are excited about something and want to do it for a living. There's just not enough necessarily always positions in the working world for all the people who aspire to do something. But they're generally speaking, there's going to be enough interest online nowadays, thanks to the internet connecting the entire world in one device. There's going to be niches where so many more people can find homes in online communities of fans that will support them for the jobs that they wish to do. All right, let's jump into question number 2, shall we?
Hi Weldon, I'm on my summer break and I want to use this 3 months strictly for improving in league, but I had the same goal before. It was the third year I'm trying to do this. Every time I hit a summer plateau and I remain stuck at the same rank, and then the school begins and I have less time to play. Nevertheless, I start to climb explosively. Like first year it was from gold 5 to plat 1 in a week or so, when it was from D5 to D3 or G2, I don't remember. And my question is how to improve more smoothly and keep track of everyday improvement. Thanks.
All right. So first of all, congratulations on the burst of climbing. That's a great thing, and you should look to do that, and it should happen again. And usually, generally speaking, this is exactly what I would predict would happen, is at first your brain knows that this is exciting and new and important, and so you focus more, and therefore you learn more. And then your brain learns that nothing is changing really, and next week you're going to be doing the same thing, and the week after you're going to be doing the same thing, and it starts to attach less importance to each game, and you focus less, and so you learn less. And also, so that's one thing that's happening, and the solution to that is that you stimulate your brain more by modifying your training and how you train and how often you train and how intensely you train, and there's all sorts of fun things you can do to stimulate your brain. I actually just wrote an article about this on LinkedIn and Medium, so you can check that out. It's like sport management and sports psychology, winning championships in esport or something like that. And it has like some tactics for coaches on how to stimulate their team's brains to make sure they don't get bored as much. Okay, now the second thing that's happening is that you have a system of learning which you have applied across limited games. When you were studying and you were in school, you were only able to do, I don't know, let's say 4 games a day. Okay, just making up a number out of the blue. And so within those 4 games a day, you were focusing on your improvement system instead. Because you couldn't increase the number of games you were playing, so you were increasing the amount that you could learn from each game. Then you unlocked your volume. So then all of a sudden you went, okay, well, I'm going to take the same system I'm using on 4 games, and I'm going to apply it to 8 games a day, 10 games a day, 12 games a day. And consequentially, your growth skyrocketed because you were using the learning that you had established on less games, and you were applying it to more games, and so you were just getting more. Okay? But unfortunately, it seems like your learning system capped out, and your volume capped out, and your brain got bored, and a little bit unfocused. So there's a couple things you need to do. First of all, you need to vary your training. You cannot do the same number of games every single day and expect it to work, and you shouldn't just like do what you feel like every day. You should have a planned cycle. So what I mean is you should make a decision before you even start what you're going to do, and what that causes you is either you have to push hard to make it through, or you have to stop and give up early even when you have more fuel in the tank. And these are both good things. These are both things that cause you to push through barriers, okay? Giving up when you still have fuel in the tank, frustrates you and makes you motivated and makes you focused on the games that you do have, and makes you more likely to take them seriously and more likely to work on systems within them for learning. So for example, if you're plateauing, you should vastly manipulate your volume. You should go to like 2 games a day max for like 10 days. And you should focus very hard on those 2 games. You should do an extensive warm-up that has nothing to do with the game. Like playing a game, I mean, you shouldn't play a game of warm-up. You should warm up by watching a VOD, by doing 5 minutes of CSing in the practice tool, by preparing the goals that you want to go over, and thinking how you can train in both the laning phase and the skirmish phase and everything you want to do. And then you should play that game with full focus and full untilting, even if you're losing and even if you int it. You should push your limits and you should strive, and you should base it off of your intention and your intensity and not necessarily your winning and losing. And then you should review the game for 20 minutes or 30 minutes, preparing for the second one. Then you should do the second one. Then you should call it quits for the day. And your brain is going to realize that these 2 games are the only games that you get, and it's going to focus very hard on them. And conversely, when that is going okay, then you should ramp it up. You should do a lot more games. And you should, I would say this is very important. You should impinge your schedule, because a wide open life and a wide open schedule is the death of creativity and pressure and ingenuity. Some people think that, oh no, I need to have open, relaxed space to create. But deadlines are some of the most wonderful things for creative bursts. So I would say that if you discipline yourself to add things in that are requirements to your life, such as going to the gym, doing meal prep, doing your meditation every day, studying your VODs, studying a stream for 1 hour, limited, maximum 1 hour, minimum 1 hour, maximum 2 hours, minimum 1 hour, where you take notes about things that you want to extract from the stream. Those kinds of things where you're spending time not doing the game, but the goal is to improve yourself at the game. You can start to fold those into your mindset. And what it will do is increase your motivation when you are playing. And it will stimulate you more when you actually do get a chance to play, to take the opportunity more seriously. If you have 14 hours in a day and your brain knows that you can spend all 14 hours of those playing as you wish, on a whim, it doesn't take the gift that you have of being in a game seriously. And so you start to tilt more, and you start to let your emotions control more, and you start to focus less, and you start to care less about small mistakes, and your brain automatically stops learning, learns less, right? And if you start to treasure it and be grateful for it, which you can do by limiting your time and limiting your play time and doing these other disciplined activities where you think, I'm going to the gym to get healthy, to get strong, so that I can maintain my posture, so that I can maintain my focus and my stamina, so that I can focus harder and longer when I'm training, then your brain understands the importance of crafting your life around this. And when you get into the game, it takes it with more gravity, I would say. And then the mistakes mean more, and then they sink into your neurons more quickly. One simple story I use to highlight the importance of so when I'm talking about learning here, there's a lot of different ways to understand the word learning. So let me define it as learning in the context of your neurons change, and the change is permanent. Your neurons notice the mistake, and they change as a result, and you remember it. So there's a concept of learning. Obviously, when we're dealing with a motor skill, there's a volume-based concept of learning. So you need to do repetitive movement, but you need to judge it every single time and adjust it slightly. And the more that you're able to focus on that, the better. So my example of learning based on the pressure of your mind and it being different is, let's say you're learning a bunch of Spanish words at home and you're just going through a list of 20 words that your teacher assigned you, and you're just trying to remember them, and then you have to write them down on a piece of paper, and a couple years later you don't even remember any of the words that were on the assignment at all. Heck, even a week later, maybe you don't even remember them. Whereas now you're asked by the same teacher to recite, words and learn them and say them in front of the class, and you have to stand up in front of everybody and say them out loud to them, and you mess one up, and the teacher corrects you very harshly and then makes a joke about you, and the whole class laughs. And you will probably remember that correction and that word for decades. You will remember that word in your brain. It will be stuck there because the searing intensity of the chemicals pouring through your brain at that moment caused your neurons to hardwire that memory. So you could say that's learning. You learned a new Spanish word. Congrats. And you're never going to forget it. Awesome. Okay. So when you're thinking about how it is that you're learning in League of Legends, when you're doing motor skills, are you just kind of spacing out, playing 50 games in a row and not paying attention to every single small movement? Or are you paying attention very carefully to what you're doing and what you're attempting to do? Are you planning, okay, I'm going to push my limits. I'm about to engage in a trade that I don't know very well. Okay, I just did it. This is what I failed at. This is what I succeeded at. Are you able to maintain that kind of monologue with yourself and that kind of focus? That's what's going to lead to the more automatic, intrinsic learning that you need when you're playing a game like League where you don't do drills, where you train through playing. All right, Robert, best of luck. I deal with this problem a lot with pro gamers. I deal with it a lot with people who go through the summers just like you do. And the real answer is to vary your volume a lot and pay attention to the results and vary your training methods as well. Don't keep doing the same thing that you're doing that plateaus you. That will never work. Just change things. Okay. Before we jump into the last question, I want to introduce the MAC program, Mindfulness, Acceptance, Commitment. Online video training program runs $30 with a $5 discount using the code AskWeldon. It is my training program. I made it in 2015. This is the third version of it, and I'm working right now on the fourth version of it, and I just put in another funding milestone on the app. The developer is working on it today, and I am working on the content, and it is coming along, and I'm very excited, and everybody who's in the program is going to get into the beta once I launch it, and then they're going to get the app for free. And then the app is going to move to a subscription model, obviously, because it's an app, so it needs constant, maintenance. But for now, it'll be just like my previous three versions of this program, which are you get grandfathered in if you have it. And it's essentially an online lecture and then an online mindfulness meditation. That's what it is every day. 47 of them in a row, and then you graduate and you get your driver's license for your brain. All right, let's jump into the last question. My question marks broke. Now they just sit there.
Hi, Weldon. I just recently hit Masters in HOTS, and I've also
Heroes
been
of the Storm.
a Legend player before in Hearthstone. And in the fall, I'm going to be starting at college, and my college has an esports program with both a HOTS and a Hearthstone varsity team.
Okay.
Currently, my plan is to try to play for both teams, but I feel like I'm sort of splitting my focus, and it's making me worse at both games. Do you think I should just pick one to focus on, or do you think I should try and do both and gain as much experience as possible? Thanks.
All right. Thank you so much for that question, Corey. Really good question. And honestly, I can only think of one or two other times I've gotten questions like this. So great question, well put, well stated, and also kind of new in a way. So here we have a high-ranked player who's high-ranked in 2 games and wants to know, should I focus on one or not? Obviously, that answer depends so much on context, depending on your goals and the number of things in your life. But generally speaking, the answer is you should always try to do both if you can expand into it. And you should you should already have a plan for which one you're going to cut when other things take over. When you want to join the youth government program, to help run the student council, when you get a girlfriend and all of a sudden you have a time sink, when you decide I want to join one of these athletic programs, when you join intramural ultimate, when you have finals coming up, you need to have one that you sacrifice on the altar of, this is the one I care less about. So you should be mentally prepared for that. But that doesn't mean you need to sacrifice them both now. It just means you need to get very efficient about your training. I want you to think like a father, okay? I want you to think like a parent. And if you really want to do both of those things, you have to do them both more intently and more intensely and more like a job, less fun, and you have to sacrifice escapism somewhere else. You have to be like, I'm just not going to watch an 8 episode binge watch session of Netflix. Like, you're just going to cut it. I'm just not going to get up and go Saturday morning to the anime breakfast and watch, 10 episodes of Initial D. I'm going to get up early, go to the gym, come back, and then train. And so if you cut out, you will be surprised if you cut out a number of different escapisms that you would normally spend time on to recapture that time for training. And if you spend more focused time training and less wasted time training, you can capture a lot of hours back in the day that have nothing to do with your classes or your relationships or your other hobbies that you can apply to those two practices. And then, as I said, be ready to eliminate one immediately when time is crunching and you pick it back up on the next season, and you're basically sustaining yourself, but not necessarily staying competitive. So be really careful with commitments in the secondary sport. Okay, be really careful with commitments in the secondary sport. Make sure that you are able to get out of them, easily, but definitely give yourself the opportunity to have great experiences there in those communities, and maybe go to tournaments. If you get the chance. So, which one to focus on? Well, here's the Storm as a motor-based sport, and Hearthstone is pure knowledge and statistics and card counting, right? So I always recommend the sport. That's the one that's going to give you skills that you cannot go back and reclaim. And I think that you can play less Hearthstone and get farther. Like, Hearthstone is not gated by volume. You don't need to train volume to train Hearthstone, because you can study it. It's a knowledge-based and a little bit of skill based on like card probability. But generally speaking, the more you play doesn't just automatically make you better, like training reflexes does. So here's the Storm is going to be a set of skills that will carry over into other games, a set of physical mechanical skills, a set of trained reflexes in the game that is going to be irreplaceable and unable to be studied in less time. Like, you just have to put in the time to train a motor reflex. There's no other way around it in our brain. You can't consciously focus and then make yourself have a reaction to a visual stimuli that is better. You just have to do it over and over again. Whereas Hearthstone, you can make that more efficient. And so I would focus on here's the Storm training, coaching, team, and then Hearthstone making it your ambition to see how good you can get with how little time you can put into it as you contract your studying and make it more efficient and more powerful. All right. Thanks for the question, Corey. And I'm super excited for you and your college career as a dual esport athlete. And I hope that my answer was in some way enlightening and helpful. And make sure always to take my advice and throw it out the window. If you need to, scrape parts of it that are useful to you out and discard the rest into the bin, or take it wholeheartedly and do exactly as I say. All right, guys, I'm going to head over to Twitch. Thank you so much for tuning into the show today. Make sure to check out the Mac program. Make sure to come to Twitch and subscribe to my channel and catch the live show and share these videos with all of your friends. I'll see you tomorrow.